Hi, I'm Deb McBride, and I'm an astrologer. Welcome to my YouTube channel. Today I want to discuss the nodes of destiny or nodes of fate, the south node and the north node of the moon. And when I discuss them, I'm going to be referring to them as they are in 2019 and where they'll be for the next year. They are currently transiting very close to Saturn and Pluto. So if you watched my Saturn and Pluto video elsewhere here on YouTube, you will learn a little more about what is affecting that Saturn Pluto that we all are getting in this next year and a half. It's very important to pay attention to the aspects that are happening to Saturn and Pluto as they go through this conjunction for the first time since 1983. So onward we go. I will share my screen and we will discuss the current positions of the nodes. The nodes are an axis. The north node of the moon is in one sign and house, and the south node is in the equal and opposite sign and house in anyone's astrological chart. Everyone has a north node and a south node in their charts. And we have them by transit, meaning they are moving in the sky just as the planets move in the sky. They move backwards. They do not move in the forward direction that the planets move. So last November 2018, the nodes changed signs and they went into the north node in Cancer, the south node in Capricorn. In about a year from now, they will change signs again because they stay in a sign about a year and a half. And they will be the north node in the sign of Gemini and the south node in the sign of Sagittarius. So you see they move in the sign prior, not forward. So the north node is where we need to feel like we're going in that direction because that's the direction of fulfillment. So everyone is getting the north node to their Cancerian house right now and the south node to their Capricorn house. The south node is where we've been there, done that, lived through that, other lifetimes in this lifetime, a place where we have experienced all of that south node and by sign and house, and we need to funnel the energy toward the north node. Because when you do too much south node, you stay in the south node, which many of us have the tendency to do, you do not get fulfillment. You get an endless vortex of frustrating energy. And that doesn't mean that the south node is not of value. We get what we need from the south node when we seek the north node. You can't do one without the other. They are an axis. You try to stay focused on the house and sign of the north node, especially during the transit, and then you will receive the gifts that the south node has for you because you are not worrying about it. It is very easy to get locked into a pattern with the south node. And the reason I want to discuss this now is because the south node is with Saturn, and it's going to be with Saturn for several months. It reached the point where it conjunct Saturn back in April, at the end of April, when Saturn stationed retrograde. They were in the same exact place. They were what we call a conjunction, which is a blending of the energy. Now what happens is when you deal with the south node, think of it as, like I said, a vortex. You kind of get pulled into it. And it's where we know things so well, but we also get obsessed about stuff. We feel like we are generally getting like nowhere with this energy. It's like it may be something that's bothering you and keeps gnawing at you, and you have to put it aside to say, okay, I'll come back to you later, and focus on the energy of the north node. Now you and you all that are listening are going to recognize where right now you're being a little obsessive about something and where things are upsetting you. And you have to understand that the only way you're going to get any sort of fulfillment out of that or any sort of recognition out of that is by following the north node in Cancer by house and by sign. So what's Cancer? It's home, family, where we create security, where we have a support system, where we create a comfortable environment for ourselves and our loved ones. It's nurturing the soul. It's nurturing our comforts, what we need comfort-wise. It doesn't mean that we have to constantly be, with our family or where we feel like we need to be baking cookies all the time and eating soup. It's where we feel our soul is going to get the most comfort and nurturing and support right now. And so maybe your energy is going in that direction naturally and it's not an issue. But there is going to be this other side, and we're all feeling it, where you feel like you want either recognition or achievement or accomplishment, because those are the keywords of Capricorn. Capricorns always want to like get up and go to the next thing. Achievement, success, accomplishment, commerce, business, financial success, recognition, awards. My name is on the door. This is very Capricornian. We all have Capricorn someplace in our charts. So, for example, if you are feeling like you have a lot of career goals right now and you want recognition and you want to be noticed for the work you're doing and you feel that you need, you know, your boss to recognize you or the public to recognize you, that is a key that you, and if you're getting caught up in that vortex of why aren't I getting ahead? Why aren't I, you know, achieving success? You've got to put that aside and stop being frustrated and not care if you're being recognized. And this is really tricky and complicated. And just go, all right, that's nice, you know, and focus on this North Node. So what it's telling you is beautify your home. Take time to feather your nest. Nurture your surroundings, the people you call family. They may not be blood relatives. Maybe they're your friends. If you are really, really digging into this North Node and creating a support system and a security level for yourself, naturally you will get recognized and you will get validation where you need it. It's very complicated and difficult to stay out of the South Node, especially when Saturn is sitting next to it. And this is why I wanted to talk about this. Saturn and the South Node are together. And they are going to be, like I mentioned, for a few months. So right now, where you can see the node is at 18, Saturn here is at 19. Pluto is over here at 22. Saturn will always ask us to handle the duty, handle the responsibility, be aware and focused, and you know, get the ducks in a row and be organized and work hard. How on earth are we supposed to focus on this when it's entangled with the South Node? Because all we want to do with the South Node is spin and keep getting recognition or some validation from someone or something. But we have to do Saturn at the same time, and Saturn is opposing the direction we're supposed to be going in. This is the trick. All of us, each and every one of us, is working something out with Saturn and Pluto. And you can see right now I've eliminated all the other planets to keep it simple and focused so that everyone understands without the other planets in the way. Saturn and Pluto is a call for each of us to work something out, to own our power, to become empowered in this region of our zodiac chart. Now, if you don't know your chart, you might want to look it up online and find out where the Capricorn house is, or you consult a professional astrologer. In any event, Saturn and Pluto are about empowering yourself in this area of your life, but they are with the South Node. So you have to go on, be empowered, do your work, focus, and not get obsessed with it. Not continuously ask for recognition there. Just do your work and be humble about it. The North Node in Cancer is showing us that a direction that we're going to go to, that we're going to get a personal fulfillment from. The South Node, you have to make sure that you don't let it get to you. It's just like, why am I not hearing back from that job I applied for? Why am I not getting a salary raise? Why am I not hearing from, you know, the insurance company about my claim? Anything that you're like obsessing about, you've got to take it in this other direction and feather your nest and make the securities happen. Make sure that you have a support system in whatever area of that chart it is. Now, the first aspects we had back in April. We had April 30th, the Saturn, if I go back a month here, watch my chart turn, days. Here we go, April 30th, they're both at 20 degrees, you can see this. And so this is when things were particularly tedious. This is when we're going to feel it the most. This is when we want the most gratification of the South Node. This is when Saturn is like, we're trying to do that Saturn. I'm trying to do well in my life. I'm trying to achieve something. And you just have to say, all right, I'm working on it. It's part of my work, but I can't babysit it. I can't focus on it. I can't keep poking at it. It's like baking a cake and just the cake's in the oven. That's it. Let the cake stay in the oven until it's time, until it's ready. Eventually the timer will ring. But when you can't let go of something, that's when it's going to bother you the most. It's really hard to let go of something when there are two big planets surrounding it and we're being taken in the direction of those planets because we have to do the work there. Think of it this way. The South Node is an old story. An old story. Each and every one of us has an old story. And we want to resolve that old story. We want to heal the old story. And the way to healing is really through the North Node, but we have to remember that it's the story. And Saturn and Pluto are saying, okay, finally, you're going to do the homework you need to do to resolve the old story for once and for all. It doesn't mean focusing on the story day in and day out all the time. It means keeping an eye on the story, and this is the balance. This is the fine line that we are walking with the North Node and the South Node this year, because these guys are sitting here with it, and we want to resolve it and achieve and accomplish and get where we want to go. But attacking it head on is not the way to do it. Coming through the back door is the way to do it, and the back door really is this North Node in Cancer. As you notice, here we are with Saturn on the South Node. I'm going to show you what's going to happen in these next weeks and months. So now we're back here, and if we go to, here we are, we're back here at June 2nd, and you can see they're separating a little bit. However, Saturn is retrograde, and it's going to crash right into the node next month. When they're tight like that, we saw April 30th, it's harder. When they start to separate like this, we have a little more visual concept of what it means. It's going to hit 3 times. Here's July, and you can see there they are again at 17 degrees, right next to each other. And if I give it, we have an eclipse on the 3rd of July. And here we are with the moon right here at 24 degrees, and it's opposing Pluto. And the sun, of course, will be in Cancer, then it'll be up here. But this, again, you see they are conjunct. That eclipse is going to trigger these nodes. The eclipse is really going to be very powerful on July 3rd. So be aware of this. Be aware that you're going to want to get swept into this South Node. Be aware that you're going to get pulled in the direction of the vortex that you can't stop thinking about. The trick part is to not allow yourself to get sucked in again. Sucked in meaning there's a story, the old story. Don't believe the old story. Handle it from the North Node. The old story will resolve itself. It has to, inevitably, with this. It's an old karmic story, an old family story, an old work story, something in your life. And you know what it is that you keep going back for. Let it go, and don't forget about it. You can't forget about it because you're resolving it. Just don't babysit it. The other important thing to know about this, and I say this, this is a little more complicated. Every month, the moon takes 28 days to go around the entire zodiac. So here's the moon in Capricorn on June 19th. And if I take this back a few days, you'll notice our moon moves back, and here I am on June 17th, the moon enters Capricorn. The moon stays in a sign about 2.5 days. So it takes the entire month, 28 days actually, to go around the entire zodiac. But every month, during one portion of the month, for a couple of days, it's going to go into Capricorn. And that naturally means that it's going to hit the South Node, hit Saturn, hit Pluto. So there's going to be 3 points in that couple of days where we feel like we want to throw in the towel and we just don't know what to do with ourselves. There's a reason for this. So let me show you this. See how the moon hits 13 degrees Capricorn, which is very close to 17 degrees Capricorn. There will be hours. You'll see that the moon exactly conjuncts the South Node. There it is. So here we are, the moon passes over the South Node. And it then, as it hits the south node, I noticed in the past month when it's done this, there's this feeling of insecurity. So this south node's gonna bring up all our insecurities, all our worries, all our frustrations, all the things we just keep getting sucked into, and the moon is gonna trigger that once a month, once every 4 weeks when it hits Capricorn, and it's going to cause us to get sucked into that story again if we're not careful. You can listen to the story. Your mind is going to go off in a tangent, and it's going to start telling you things about that story. And you can't believe it. You've got to go in the direction of the North Node and just focus on doing something good for your home, good for wherever that North Node falls in your chart. Here, for example, if you're experiencing the North Node in the 6th house, the South Node in the 12th house, this is your health and work. This is where you have faith. There may be that you have to just focus on going to work every day and just taking care of yourself and going to the gym and healing your body. And not worrying too much what happens if you didn't get enough sleep last night, or if you feel like you're what you believe in or what you have faith in or what you're trying to put faith in is failing you. Maybe you're overdoing the spiritual work and you're not handling it in the material world enough. That could be one of these aspects. This is just an example. There is going to be a point the same day. So you have the South Node, for example, here with with the moon, and you're going to hit that point of insecurity where all you're going to be able to think about are those South Node issues. You're going to recognize what they are because they're going to not leave you alone that day. June 18th is one of such days. But there's also some other tricky business going on. The moon is going to touch Saturn and then Pluto the same day because it's only a few hours away. The moon is not just going over those planets like it goes over any other planet. The moon goes to Venus, it's a very pleasant day. The moon goes to Mars, it's a very energetic day. We get things accomplished. The moon, when it goes to Saturn and Pluto, over the course of this year, every month, is going to make what we call an occultation. What is an occultation? Here's the moon with Saturn on June 19th. Here they are, and we're looking at New York time. What is an occultation? An occultation is when the planet lights go out. An occultation is essentially an eclipse. Now, we know we get eclipses every year. We get 2 in a period, and then 6 months later we get another 2. When the moon crosses over the sun and we have a solar eclipse, the sun is being eclipsed. That is an occultation of the sun. When the moon occults Saturn, which it doesn't do very often at all, and it's just this year we're getting this. It doesn't mean it happens all the time. But particularly because we're getting Saturn, Pluto, and the South Node together, the moon is going over Saturn and occulting it. It's knocking out Saturn's light. Then a couple hours later, the moon is going over Pluto's light, and here we are. Where you see the moon getting close to Pluto, and here it is, 22 degrees. The moon is going over Pluto's light, even though Pluto is very far away, and so is Saturn, and it's occulting Pluto. What could this feel like? What could this mean? Why is this different? It's different because when it makes an occultation, the light of the planet, it's like the shade is drawn, the light goes out, the electricity is pulled. Saturn and Pluto are helping us transform. They really are. Even though they may seem like an arduous task, an arduous experience over this year and how hard it is for us, they get triggered once a month by the moon. And it's very important to know this because there's going to be 1 or 2 days out of the month where we just feel like we don't know what we're doing. And you have to be okay with that because we're going to obsess with the South Node. We're going to feel the moon hit Saturn and then hit Pluto, and where's my transformation? I was doing really well on my path. I don't know what happened. I don't feel any energy. Yeah, because the moon pulled the plug on the energy. The moon is shutting off the lights and blocking the light because it's moving in front of them in such a way that it is not a normal way. And the experience of that is going to feel like Saturn and Pluto are nowhere to be found. Suddenly they disappear. They didn't really disappear. Give it a couple of hours, the moon moves off Saturn and Pluto and goes on its way and does its business elsewhere, and then the energy comes back. But in the meantime, in those hours, The first thing that's going to happen, it's going to hit the south node. It's going to feel like we're obsessing and about what we need to do. And then the light goes out and we don't know what we were in the dark. But I need to know what to do. This is all going to happen once every 4 weeks. And you might be busy with work or out to dinner or taking care of your family, but there's going to be a something that you feel subtly. It could be when you're sleeping. You could have a weird dream. It is going to feel like you are losing control, which these guys are all about control, especially in Capricorn. You're losing some sort of sense of control. Let it be. Take a hot bath. Go for a walk. Meditate. Watch television. Play a game with your kids. Don't worry about it. This is just, it's when we need to take a little break from the obsessive path of resolving something and resolving the story. If things tend to get in the way and you feel blocked, you just have to work through them. And, my advice is always to meditate, always to embrace what you're feeling, do a journal entry, feel like you are, enter in your journal, write something down in your book about how you're feeling and notice it, watch it. Because for those of you who are watching June 19th, we know June 18th, 19th is when this is going to happen. 4 weeks later in July, you can work with this energy and just be aware of it. The transformation isn't over because the moon occults these planets for a few days. It means we just have to work with it a little differently and not think about it so much. We can get really caught up in this energy. It's very powerful. It's going to give us great achievements. So watch my Saturn Pluto video. It'll tell you what area of your chart you'll be experiencing those achievements. But make sure that you have a lot of faith in what you're doing and you put your energy over here in the North Node, wherever that is for you. Faith is going to get you through this. Belief in yourself, empowerment, going to get you through this. The times when Saturn is going to be the hardest and it's going to feel the most strongest is during that eclipse on July 3rd. And then again, September 28th. Saturn will hit the South Node again. In September. And you're going to see Saturn goes direct right here on the 18th. Here's the 19th. It's already direct. Saturn's direct from being retrograde. And we're going to feel like we're reaching our goals again because sometimes when Saturn is retrograde, we feel like we're not getting where we are, where we need to be. And here they are getting close again in those days. So September 28th, and you're going to feel, here we go, they're right here. And it's very difficult. It's to sort of separate yourself from this. It's very difficult to separate the journey from the process, from how you're feeling. So don't worry about it. Just do it. Just feel secure in going into the North Node and taking care of business there. The thing to remember is that you are achieving something this year, in this next year and a half. And you are going to feel like you're moving forward on a certain level, but it may feel like it's a very slow, arduous task. It's okay. That's the nature of Capricorn. That's the nature of Saturn and Pluto. This is a very powerful aspect. It has not happened since 1983, 1984. So we're revisiting this for the first time since then, in this conjunction sense, in the sense that the two of them are together. Saturn is diligence. Pluto is transformation. Pluto is where we need to transform our life. And yes, we do really want to transform this Capricorn area of our lives and elevate it and work out the old issues and solve the old problems and resolve the issues in that area of our life. But we can't get obsessed about them. We need to walk that fine line and be in a very strong balance between those two areas of your life. So look at your chart. Where is the North Node for you? Where is the South Node? Where is it taking you? And just be aware of how you're feeling while this is going on. And know when you're spinning. And know when those planets get hit by the moon. It's very important. I do a podcast every week. You can find it on my website, McBride.com. And I will be announcing when the Saturn Pluto is getting hit by the moon by that occultation. I will be discussing these on a regular weekly basis. So I invite you to listen to my podcast weekly. You can find it at my website, McBride.com. I am also available for consultations, and you can write to me, deb@debmcbride.com. And if you have any questions about Saturn and Pluto, what's going on this year, and the South Node, and how that affects you. Thanks for listening. Take care and have a good week.